boy is clearly under pressure.
They're always under pressure.
The boy in that picture.
They're always under pressure.
I didn't ask Kimono.
Young people, you know, don't forget that they're always going through a lot. You already know that the teen years can be tough and rough.
Yeah.
You're fighting, you're figuring out who you are, what you believe, what you're good at, what your responsibilities are, what your place in the world is going to be. All that is going through your head. And all that to a teenager
is a lot. Very, very a lot.
It's comforting to face those challenges with friends who are into the same things that you are.
Facing the same challenges.
But you probably hear adults, parents and teachers, and they talk about peer pressure more than the benefits of belonging to a peer group. Now, let's talk about this peer pressure thing. Okay, all your classmates are smoking now, and because you don't want to smoke, you feel left out, and they don't want to talk to you because you are not one of them, so to speak. That's peer pressure right there. After a month or so, you succumb, and the next thing, you're hiding cigarettes in the house, and mom is smelling cigarettes and wondering where the smell is coming from. Anyway, we have a specialist in the house. It's my pleasure to welcome Motolani Falabi, CEO, Praise for Wowe International. She is a family life therapist.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for having you again. Welcome.
You mean thank you for bringing the cane again? Okay, because she's going to drive, rain it all on us. Well, let's just go straight to it and ask you, do you think parents understand peer pressure in a way to help the children, the teenagers who are going through this pressure, understand and go through it?
I don't think that parents understand it, right? So that's why it's easy for them to scold the teenagers and say, why would you allow yourself to be pressurized into doing this? But as parents, aren't we even under pressure ourselves? So I think I want to answer your question.
I asked that so that we can really lay the foundation, so that it will be an educational for parents and guardians. So if they don't understand it, what is the attention that they need to give? What is it that they need to understand?
Okay.
So that they can give the adequate love, adequate concentration, adequate focus on their children.
Now, so for peer pressure, oftentimes teenagers I've been faced with a lot of them, and when you ask questions, they feel like the whole world is looking at them, even when nobody really is looking at them. I was in a research recently, and teenagers, I was asking a series of questions from them, and then they say, if I don't do this certain thing, it feels like I'm alone, I'm left out. Even when nobody's really looking at me, they would even attest to the fact that it's not as if everyone's looking at me, but I just feel that pressure.
I just feel it.
Like somebody's looking at me. I needed to at least feel among. And of course, because in our secondary schools these days, if you are not participating in what everybody's doing, then they call you a snitch. Nobody really wants to be your friend, and because you don't want to be left out. And now this would come from a place of identity for the teenagers. If you understand who you are, I usually would say anyone would misbehave when they don't know who they are. They would also misbehave if they have forgotten who they are. So if they don't get that validation from home, so for someone like me growing up in a house where I constantly hear my father tell me that I'm the most beautiful girl in the world, there's nothing anybody wants to tell me outside that makes me doubt that. So what is the validation that parents give to their teenagers? Are you listening to them? Do you have that relationship with your children? Are you allowing someone outside the home to outlove you, to outlove your children? So if if they feel like mommy does not love me because maybe there are some certain behaviors that I put out, and a lot of my friends will just, let it go because every other person is doing it. So they feel more comfortable. When I work with teenagers, you hear them say, I'm more comfortable with my friends. So when you're more comfortable with your friends, you feel like they understand you better than your parents. You feel like they love you more than your parents. Oftentimes, you want to listen to the people you think love you the most and, understand you, as they would say, oh, mommy does not understand what I'm going through. Mommy does not understand me. I don't even feel like my parents love me. I only get a well done maybe when I have straight A's. And it's not just all about academics, for them. There are other things that they're doing so well, but because we're not paying attention to it, and then we just feel, oh, you are good for nothing. You have. And when teenagers tell me my mom told me that, my brain cannot pick how a parent would use such words, and these are things that affect them.
So when we'll come to more of that, the consequences of this, but when a teenager says, "Mommy does not understand me," is it indeed that mommy does not understand? What are the challenges that the parent, let me not say mommy now before they crucify me. Is it that the parent does not understand, or the language of communication of both generations are at variance?
Yeah, I think it's more of the communication, right? So a child behaves in a certain way. The parent not observing to see what happened before this child did this. Parents not coming down to say, let me fact find, let me figure out what is happening with this child. Just begins to label. They don't understand it, and then they are making a case out of what they don't understand. And the child is saying, let's have a conversation. Even try and understand why I did this. And you would agree with me that even as adults, a lot of the craziest things that we had done when we were teenagers, you will see a man saying, oh, the first time I drove was my father's car. There is something in the teenager that I don't know how it works in their brain, but they just want to take risk. They want to try out some certain things. Not because they don't know that there are consequences, or not because they don't feel like it's bad. They just want to explore. Now, you're not in their brain trying to see, oh, because we've also done this in time past. So why are we forgetting that there is a part of them that wants to explore and see what it feels like? Right? At that point, they want you to have a conversation to see what happened? What was going through your mind when you did this? But no, we just, start labeling or start giving punishment for something that we don't understand. And they expect that, mommy, you probably have done this before. They probably have heard you say it, to say you took your father's car out and then you bashed it and maybe you hit it and then you were beating.
Did that, and, okay. But I'm not even going to give my child my key now to drive. But
so we're probably guilty of the same thing.
When you raise these issues, perhaps the challenge for many parents, and you would identify with this, is the parent has gone through it, knows the consequence, and is telling you, must you learn from your own experience? But you would rather just say, okay, I've had reason to ask my 14-year-old, you were told not to go to this place, not to do this thing. Why do you do it? I forgot.
Sincerely, they forgot.
Huh?
She forgot.
No. I don't understand.
If she said she forgot, it meant that she forgot.
Okay.
All right, so there is also a place of, I want to find out, have you observed that when you say don't do this, your brain then tends to...
That's exactly what he's going to do.
Why are they telling me not to? I want to experience for myself.
Did you do that when you were growing up?
Yes.
And then that.
Even when you know the consequences. And then I get it. I've been warned several times to say, oh, don't do this. A part of my brain will just tell me, like, maybe my outcome won't be yours. Maybe I won't get caught. Maybe mine wouldn't be as bad as yours. Maybe you weren't smart enough was why what happened to you happened. So there's just a place in the teenage brain that feels, I have it covered. I can handle this. And then they go in there and go, maybe I can handle this. But at that point, they then need the love and the guidance of the parent.
Talani, something just came to my mind now. In the 80s, there was a cover story in the Time magazine. And it read, "We are the people our parents warned us against."
Exactly. Exactly.
I will never forget that cover story because it struck home with me. After I had a good laugh, I then read it and I thought, this is so true. Our parents don't know half the things we get up to. And when they're telling you, you should not smoke, it's bad for you. You should not go out to parties when you're in school too much. Make sure you read your books. And you read this thing and you say, yeah.
Right.
All the things he says, what he says, okay, Tolani is doing those things, so please be careful with Tolani. I am the one taking Tolani out to do all those things.
Exactly. So why you think they're influencing your children? Your children might be the one
influencing them. So, I mean, this peer pressure and this teenage thing, how do parents handle it?
Lately, because of the kind of cases that come into the office and the kind of calls that we receive, I've been intentional about doing a research on how their brain works. And one of the things I'm finding out is there's a part of them, I'm not a science that understand how their brain and all the technical, but then there's a part of their brain that is not fully developed where they can make certain decisions that we're expecting them to behave like adults and say, no, you should know this. They don't know. And in the research, it was saying that their brain is not fully formed until 25. Right, but they would, you can't tell an 18-year-old that she's not fully developed. She would argue it out with you. There's a part of her brain that tells her, or there's a part of her, I know what I'm doing, but they don't. And that's why we still need to, coach and guide them. And like you would always say, your report card is what you will get at 19.
Yes.
So all of those things that you have done. So when they were age 0 to 3, what were you modeling to them?
Yes.
What did they see you? What values did you impute in them?
Yes.
Is there a part of them that says, like someone was saying, I did not misbehave because the words of my mother was always ringing in my ear to say, know the son of whom you are. Now the question is, what is our family known for? My family is known for responsibility. We're responsible people. Now, so if you ask a typical child in any family to say, what is your family known for? Nothing.
Our name.
They don't stand for any value. And then what the parents just do is dish out, don't do this, don't do that. And the things that you're saying they should not do. Oh, don't smoke. They have an uncle who comes to the house, who smokes, who is still healthy. Nothing has happened to him. Or you say, don't have sex. And then they tell you, some stars that they respect have baby mamas and he's still doing very well in his career. So really, the society at large also has some level of responsibility.
You led me to the question of culture. Most of the time when we're talking about these issues, we're speaking about urban Nigeria. Is it the same thing in suburban or rural Nigeria?
Yes, but we're dealing with different things. So a child who is in some rural, some village does not understand that there's something called threat. That just
came out.
So
do they even know?
They don't know. They don't have a phone. So yes, there's a bit of them also who wants to explore, who wants to take risk, right? But we're not dealing with these things at the same level. But it would still be something within their environment that their parents would also feel, oh, you don't listen, or maybe there is some moonlight story at night that they would want to go for, that the parents will say, oh no, I don't want you to go, do this. Or there will be some river that they want to go up high the mountain to go jump down and do all of those diving. It's risky because a part of them feel, oh, I can swim, and so let me try this. But the parents would not want them to do it. So there is some form of pressure. And one of the things I also realize with teenagers is when they're alone, their risk-taking is reduced. But when they are with their peers, they want to, there's a part of them that wants to show that I can. I can't.
Whatever you can do, maybe I can
yes, I can do better.
Yes, and one of the research I was doing was saying that they were carrying out a research on teenagers, and they realized that when they were alone, I think it was a driving research, adults and the teenagers were making the same, taking the same level of risk. But the minute they put the teenager in a room where he knew that other teenagers were looking at him, the risk level increased, because there's a part of him that wants to say, I can do this. Let me show off that I have the ability, to do this.
Perhaps it also leads to what you said, or it stems from what you said earlier about they knowing themselves, right? So how do parents take their children, their teenagers, on that journey? How do the teenagers themselves navigate away from this pressure? Because some of them actually know that the peer pressure has some significant negative effect on them, even though it is motivating. How do we navigate the teenagers to know who they are as being not superior, not inferior, but unique in themselves? How do we get there? What help do they need to get there?
So it wouldn't start from when they're teenagers, but let's say peradventure they had moved and they're now teenagers. You want to sit down and start having that conversation. Help them draw out their strength. Let them understand, because oftentimes they want to compete because, let's say they're probably not doing well in academics and you have always maybe compared them with other friends, but there are some certain things that they do better than any other person.
Absolutely.
So you want to help them identify what their strength is, something that gives them, because why are they pressurized to do what others are doing? There is some energy, pump of energy. What is that thing that also gives them that same feeling?
So how do we do that? How do people help them discover this uniqueness?
So if you can't by yourself, you might want to seek the help of a professional. But aside that, you want to pay attention and observe. What is even the personality of that child? It's from observation, questioning, what do you love? Like I was having a session with a teenager and the father says, I don't even know what he's useful for. I don't think it's useful for anything. I said, no, that can't be. It would be useful for something. And from questioning, I figure out that he loves to create game. But the father just thinks that he likes to play game. Playing game was not enough. But if you don't engage in conversation, right, you might not get it from one conversation. Allow them explore a lot of things. Then you will figure out what it is that they love to do, something that gives them that pleasure. Yes, they play game, they spend a lot of time on their phone, and this child is saying, I can create a better one. I want to learn to code, I want to learn how to create games, but the father just, you must go to science school and then go be a medical doctor. So you want to sit with them and help them figure out what their strength is, of course from conversations, or you want to have a mentor, a therapist, something that can work with them and help them figure out that innate strength that they have. Okay. That would also give them that level of energy and pump that peer pressure would give them, something that they feel, oh, I'm very good at this.
This is only a starter.
Yeah.
She's always coming here with starters.
It's only a start, because we need to talk about teenagers a lot more, because I'm sure there are many parents out there who are trying to figure out their teenagers.
They just lost.
And the thing is, when you spoke about their brains are not fully developed till they're 25, the parent tries to guide them and they look at the parent like,
you are dinosaurs.
Enough.
What does this dinosaur want to tell me? What does this dinosaur know that he wants to tell me? Me, I'm techie, So that I think we're going to have to bring you back.
Absolutely.
To conclude this discussion about dealing with teenagers and peer pressure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motolani Falabi, CEO, Praise for Wowe International, and she is a family life therapist. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sunrise will be right back with the home stretch. Do stay with us.